Welcome everyone to this webinar by the C Collective on transforming your business for regeneration and resilience. I have the pleasure today to be surrounded by Flo from the C Collective and Tim, and we'll do some introductions very soon. We'll start by just welcoming you, welcoming everyone and thanking you for demonstrating by your presence today that you want to play an active part in restoring the ecosystem known as planet Earth. So before we introduce the agenda, some intros for our speakers. So I'm gonna just quickly kick off the intro of speakers. My name is Marie. I'm the founder of the C Collective, and we're a purpose-driven consultancy focused on regenerative design. Flo, over to you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. It's great to have you here. And my background is in advertising, and I had a long career on digital product design. And so have worked with large corporations and collaborated with entrepreneurs on several tech startups. And it was in the last few years that I had this beautiful learning journey towards sustainability and regeneration. So have been training on the Doughnut Economics with the Action Lab, and just finished a very deep course on systems change. And I think it has all fired me up to make another transition. So here I am today. Very nice to meet you. And now over to you, Tim.
Hello, everyone. I am a psychologist, organisational psychologist and coach, and I've always been an activist involved in social environmental activism. So I now support leaders and organisations who are trying to make a difference, either socially or environmentally. And broadly, I say I support explorers and pioneers. So pioneers are individuals or organisations who are already identified where they can make a real clear difference in this space. Explorers are individuals and organizations who know they need to do something to align more with their purpose and the planet, but haven't figured out how to do it yet. And I help them figure it out.
Great, thank you, Tim. And it's a pleasure to have you today as our guest speaker. So this is the agenda for today. First, we'll do a short introduction about the C Collective. And then we'll talk about the key concept of regenerative business at the organizational level. And then Tim will talk about the journey at a more inner or at the leadership level, what it takes. Then we'll dive into the framework that we use from the Doughnut Economics to help businesses evolve on that journey. And we'll actually invite you into a hands-on practice where you can try to map your impact or a chosen business impact using the Doughnut frameworks. And then at the end of the session, we'll take some Q&As. So feel free to also ask any questions that you have along the way. We'll also try to take them as we go. So now let me take you through our journey into regeneration as the C Collective. We were founded in 2019 as a design consultancy for people and planet-friendly solutions. And in 2021, we started delivering climate literacy training to more traditional businesses. And then we also help businesses understand the biodiversity crisis and what they could do about it. So now we're evolving our activities and services to also support not only the nature-born climate tech, but also traditional businesses who want to embark on a transformation towards regeneration, from awareness of environmental crisis to the diagnosis, the design, and the delivery of regenerative business practices. So essentially, we're here as facilitators on that journey. We're here to provide a framework and a safe space so that business can embark on a journey where they actually find the solutions to the regenerative journey and transformation. So to do this, we help you sort of take the plunge, this leap of action that is needed. We help you set up the vision, design and plan what needs to happen, and finally get your teams on board. And this is a snapshot of the businesses that we've been helping in the previous years, so traditional businesses and impact-focused startups. So without further ado, I will hand over to Flo.
Yeah, so basically, like, people tend to ask, like, what's really a regenerative business? Like, how can we move beyond sustainability and what it actually means? So we brought here the compass for regenerative business. This is based on the book from our previous guest speaker, Niels de Vergeer. So it's Regenerative Enterprise. Very interesting book, by the way, with lots of examples of practical, like in different communities and in companies and how they have been putting those concepts into practice. So basically, they have this holistic approach encompassing like a 360-degree perspective. And so it looks into 5 directions. That is to define what a regenerative business is. First of all, it has to look into the purpose. So it's really the North Star. So how can you be having a transformational and evolutional purpose as a company, as an organization? And then the planet is thinking about how can we be in the right relationship with the planet? How can we give back much more than we take and start replenishing it? So that's the kind of mindset it goes. And then it thinks also about people. How can we move from the human resources and thinking about empowering human potential, giving people space to unleash their creativity? Also, like, taking very important attention to partners and thinking about the collaborative value for all mindset. So how do we recreate this value for everyone? How do you redistribute the value amongst everyone who you're collaborating with? And obviously the part of places, which is, there is no sustainability or regeneration without community and places. Companies should not be thinking as people, as customers, are only about, like, really the monetary feedback that you have, but like they are citizens, and you should be working in collaboration and really trying to think of how you can bring the value to back to the communities. So what we've heard as well, like on the previous talk, was about, like, we might not have all the answers of what exactly a regenerative business is or it can be, but what there is this goal of moving beyond what already is there, is moving away from this competitive mindset and embracing this mindset that it's always evolving and always moving forward. So it is a journey. And in this journey, we look here in this very interesting wave graphic. It's like the 4 levels of this journey that obviously Tim was going to be talking more about it. But it's, coming from the doing less harm, and this is where, like, the typical CSR, like, in the areas of a company, and then going into doing no harm, and this is the regular sustainability that we tend to see on enterprises, and then moving into becoming more restorative and regenerative. And again, this is seen as a journey. It's not an endpoint. It's the aspiration and the intention where everybody's contributing to write this new story. And so if we look into the other slide, please. If we try to visualize these concepts through the lens of design, then this diagram summarizes the key areas to be acknowledged and included on our regenerative practice. So we must lead with a conscious intention to drive the design of these products and technologies and solutions. They should not be only around humans, but also including the ecosystems and the planetary health at the core of our purpose. So as designers, and that's kind of the background of the C Collective, our long experience has been around human-centered design. So everything you're thinking about the user, but now we should be getting this transformed and amplified to include the environment and the systems that we are relating to. And so now I think we're thinking here a little bit about the importance of what Tim is going to be talking about, and it's around the inner change journey. So I'll pass it on to you to enlighten us, please.
All right, thank you. Let me put my timer on because I've got 10 minutes. Right. what to say about the journey? I think where I would start is regenerative business. You know, you just said flow. We don't really know quite what it will look like or where it will end up, but we know it will change profoundly some of the basic principles of how we go about things. So you mentioned design, you know, being people-centered design. What is it to design beyond people? Planet-centered design. So where I want to start is the idea that as we create regenerative business, just as that's so far away from what we've been trained to do in business schools and MBAs and newspapers and ways we think about business, it's very likely that who we are as leaders or as people will have to change as much. So the basic thing I really want to leave you with in the next 10 minutes, because we'll only do something brief and a little simplistic, is can we create, or can we expect leaders or professionals, business people, to create regenerative business by operating in the same way and with the same consciousness and the same habits and mindsets as they do? I don't think we can. Maybe you think different. So I really like this quote. Yeah, it's not just about technology or clever economics. We have to fundamentally shift the way we see and experience ourselves. That's not a small thing. We won't get there in 10 minutes, but if we can have the next slide, let's have a little go. So from an organizational point of view, this is the wave that Flo just talked about, with one thing added on. So a lot of traditional, you know, CSR, sustainability. Can we do less harm? Maybe we contribute to one cause. Can we do no harm? That would be great. Can we start to restore? And then this evolving holy grail. What would a business be like that actually regenerated the planet? Wow. And I've added to that do harm at the beginning. Not that the purpose of any business is to do harm, but business as usual. If we can have the next, you know, what I would call business as usual, traditional business ends up doing harm, not because it tries to, but the whole way people are thinking, the whole level of consciousness, we create harm. So this line above is another way of talking about the organizational journey, from a traditional, we're not that bothered, to efficiency. We'll do less harm, we'll change light bulbs, we'll recycle paper, we'll change our heating system, to really where many organizations are now, sustainability. Let's really think about this. Can we do no harm? Can we restore? Of course, we still need to deliver on business as usual goals. We still need to make profit. We still need to be efficient. And then finally, regenerative. And what might that mean? Well, Flo will talk more about that afterwards. So what does this mean? If it's true that leaders need to change just as much as businesses need to change, what might this mean? And what I want to say is, although of course we can't go into it all now, but I can send links later, these models of organizational evolution are very well grounded, both in kind of psychology, organizational development, and real life case studies of real companies. And you'll see similar models on many reports. I'm sure this audience would have seen those. So although this is simplistic, we're not making this stuff up. The interesting thing is it's very well understood. There's kind of psychological correlates, right? There's an inner journey that people go through, not just leaders, all of us go through. But if I am a leader and I'm interested in reconfiguring my business in this way, there's a psychological maturation. There's a process of steps that I go through in the way I see the world, what drives me, the sorts of changes I'm wanting to create in my business. So let's look at those. We've divided them kind of into three. So yeah, the first one. So this is what I would call a conventional business as usual mindset, more or less. And here I'm in traditional business, I'm creating harm I don't notice, or maybe I'm creeping into efficiency, I'm recycling light bulbs, I'm doing corporate reports, but I'm not fundamentally thinking about sustainability. The key driver, I would say, is very classic business drivers: growth, delivery, productivity. As a human, I'm still thinking about those same things in my own life and my career. So people leading from this are very interested in their own growth, the growth of their salary. How do I deliver all my goals? What does a productive life look for me? What do I create? Where do I get to in my career? Nothing wrong with that, but it tends to be fairly narrow about my own advancement. And so if I'm interested in leadership development, I'm interested, can I do the same stuff quicker, more efficiently, more productively? Do I need skills or tools to do things quicker, better, faster, etc.? And in psychology, we call that learning one. It's great, we all need it, but it's the first level. I don't think speed, skill, tools, technique will develop the world we want or the regeneration we want. So we need a next step. Then a lot of people are more interested in sustainability. Now, the important thing is we still need all the stuff that went before, right? We don't say, oh, tools are bad or productivity and efficiency is bad. We need to bring that stuff with us, of course, if we're going to have a viable business and also if we're going to be competent leaders, but it's not enough. So at sustainability, I'm suggesting the key shift here is I'm thinking about purpose and alignment, not just how do we do what we do quicker, better, more efficiently, but what are we trying to do? What is this business trying to do? We want to make money, but we want to have a positive impact, or we might want to align with certain causes. So there's a lot here about identifying what is our purpose as a business and are we aligned to it, and exploring, I would say the key leadership step here is being honest about the gaps where we're not aligned. What we're doing isn't aligned with what we say we're about, with our values, with our purpose. Now, as an individual, and I coach many, many people at this stage, there's often a sense of a frustration. I am not aligned with what I really care about. I am earning my money as a lawyer or a banker or a salesperson, and I'm doing all this stuff, but it doesn't align with my values. So from a leadership development point of view, a lot of that's about what are my purposes? How do I align with that? But as a leader working in this space, I'm going to be creating those spaces in my organization. What are we doing? How do we align? What are the gaps? Where are we not delivering on the things we say are important about planet and society? So key skills here, whether it's for myself or in the organization, is how do I surface those gaps? How do I start to explore and experiment with new ways? How do I notice the beliefs I have that keep things in place? And the spirit of inquiry, curiosity rather than solutions. Now, if we're really curious and really realize we don't know and always open to those gaps, we might realize there's another step. And I think this is kind of the edge, what's starting to happen. Yeah, if we can have the next box, if it exists.
Yeah, it's
hopefully
coming.
it exists.
Yes,
Maybe it doesn't
does.
exist.
I think there's a little frozen. Yes.
Maybe no one knows. It would be really funny if it was just an empty space. That actually would satisfy me a lot. Okay. I think in sustainability, we're really exploring, and people are doing some amazing stuff. Pioneers, I think, are really willing, again, personally and in their organizations, to take a radical step into a space where we really don't know, but we're really driven by purpose and alignment. So I think the key driver here, and this starts to sound quite spiritual, maybe to some people a little bit woo, but I think it's really important. It's not just what's important to us or what's our purpose and are we delivering on that. I'm offering the question for a regenerative business or a leader in this space is, who am I? Who are we? So not just how do we do what we do quicker, better, or do we align with our purpose? Who do we think we are? Who is this business and who am I? And the reason I think that is because it may be necessary for us to really change our sense of who we are as individuals, as leaders, and what a business is and what it needs to do if we're really to regenerate. And I think some of the leaders, if you look at the leaders of companies like Patagonia, people who've done this are profoundly questioning their own identity and what it is to be a business. And when you get into that, old ideas maybe have to let go of and die. So they're questioning ideas about profit, about money, about career. Maybe there's whole products we no longer do. Maybe there will be businesses that no longer exist or whole new possibilities. So this is deep territory and my time is pretty much up. But a leader in this space, I think, has gone beyond purpose and is really into what parts of me or my identity do I need to let go of? What needs to be surrendered? Old myths or beliefs about business. That requires huge courage, I think, for all of us to face the fear of doing things differently. It requires a real sense of, I would say, love. And this can sound soft, but I think these are real leadership capacities. And in terms of identity, do we see ourselves as individual, heads-on bodies going around trying to do stuff, or do we really experience ourselves as part of something much, much larger, whether you call it Gaia or the universe or some intelligent collective? I think if we don't have that sense of identity, it will be hard for us to take the size and scale of steps that we are really being asked to do. So I will leave it there. I'm sure it raises many questions. I'm very happy to have those here or offline some other time.
That's great. Thank you so much, Tim. And yes, we have some questions that we can pick up a little bit later. So let's go and continue the circle, and we'll move into the center of our conversation. So it's around the Doughnut Economics. We assume most of you know the concept, but if not, raise your hands. We will talk a little bit about it. So basically, the theory of the Doughnut Economics was first brought to life by Kate Raworth. And that was around, there was a report that she wrote for Oxfam in 2012, and then she wrote the book about the Doughnut Economics. And so if we move on to the next slide, here we can see the donut, and this is the concept at the heart of Doughnut Economics. We have to think it as a compass for human prosperity in the 21st century. And this is the aim of this is to meet the needs of all people within the means of the living planet. So it consists of two concentric rings, as we can see. So in the center, where we can see is the social foundation. This is to ensure that no one is falling short of life's essentials, such as education, housing, water, food, etc. And then we have outside, where we can see with the light blue, that's the ecological ceiling. And it is there to ensure that humanity does not collectively overshoot the planetary boundaries that protect Earth's life supporting systems. And this would be including like freshwater withdrawals, biodiversity loss, the use of fertilizers, ocean acidification, and it goes around. And so in between those two sets is where of these boundaries is where we find this donut shape space. That's where the name comes from. And this is where we consider that is both ecologically safe and socially just. And that's the space where humanity will be able to thrive. That's the whole idea around this concept, is that we're able to analyze both and just see where, as a company or a community, as a person, how can you be respectful to these both boundaries? So if we move into the next slides, if we were to take a snapshot of this compass today, it is clear that the world is out of balance and the global economy has been overshooting multiple planetary boundaries and leaving billions of people falling short of life essentials, as we all know. And the crisis continue to rise. So the starting point of the Doughnut Economics is to change this goal from endless GDP growth to thriving in the donut. So again, like we see so many initiatives of kind of including nature as part of stakeholders and and shareholders and so on, and the importance of thinking a little bit different the economy as well. So if we move on to the next one, actually is the latest. Well, we have a Swedish attendee here today. So this is the latest coming from the Stockholm Resilience Center. That's like the graphic that was where the Doughnut Economics is based on. And we can see that we at this point have 9 boundaries assessed and 6 of them were already crossed. So it is, as we know, like very alarming, but hopefully, we can kind of come out with like some positive action and ideas today. So if we move on to the next, please, we can think about this framework not being only theoretical, but it's actually been successfully applied to cities and businesses. And let's have a look in here, like, you know, through the lens of local communities and cities. We have several examples. Amsterdam is usually the most known one from the Doughnut Economics, where they really show in the book. It was one of the pioneers, but this is like around Melbourne, and Melbourne was one of the cities that took the first step of using the Doughnut, and that was back in October 2020. And they wanted to develop a community insights around a regenerative future for the city that was impacted by the post-pandemic economic crisis, the rising of social inequality, and the climate and biodiversity emergency that is quite strong in that area of Australia. So here you can see the diverse areas that they looked at to drive change. So we see, like, from access to knowledge to locally grown food and actions to embrace and connect diverse cultures. So they are looking into very different aspects of the community. And obviously, these are all systemic changes, so they don't happen overnight. As we say, like, this is all a journey. It happens through incremental progress through time. And obviously, like, if you can do this in a city of 5 million people, this framework is also applicable to businesses. So on the next one, we can see examples from commercial enterprises and organizations. And we see here Aileen Fisher, you know, a clothing company that has been using the framework to assess its social and environmental impact. And it has been guiding the strategic decision making. So again, is thinking about employee ownership. We can see on the examples, and also like the circular economy is very alive on the examples. Triodos Bank as well is an ethical bank that utilizes the framework to also like evaluate potential investments and make sure they are contributing to socially and economically just future. And finally, the very known Patagonia. So the clothing company has redesigned the ownership model. I think it's not there, or maybe I have a delay, to lock in its commitment to protecting and restoring nature. And so they have set up a trust that controls all the share with voting rights, and an environmental nonprofit collective that controls all shares with dividend rights. So it's drawing inspiration from the steward ownership model that is presented on the book. And here we have a quote from the founder, which is quite inspiring, and it just illustrates the mindset shift from this type of leader, right?
So thank you, Flo, for these examples from cities and organizations. So it's amazing to see all these organizations of all sizes putting regeneration into practice, and some of them are quite large and well-known, established. So the people in this session, they might think they are part of a much smaller business or working with smaller businesses. Sometimes still working on the foundation as a young or enterprise or startup. So can you give us some input into how to actually get started, you know, as an organization or for your clients on this journey to regeneration?
Yes, absolutely. So we at the C Collective, we have been using our deep understanding of environmental polycrisis and solutions. We mentioned before, being trained on biodiversity and the climate education as well. And so we also been tapping on design thinking as a practice. And the Doughnut Economics framework is also like now added to support the different needs of business with specialized services that we have. So we usually take people collaborations and clients through a workshop that we onboard them on the journey. And it is like a half-day workshop that goes through the four specific phases. Like, this is all done in collaboration with the Doughnut Economic Action Lab. So we start by the first part, which is the rapid Doughnut mapping, and this is what we're going to do a small exercise after this presentation, so we can play a little bit with it. And what we do is like we try to map and try to explore using the Doughnut framework all the impacts and the dependencies that your organization, a system has, and try to think like how the positives and negatives, how you're impacting social and ecological ceiling. And then the second part is a brainstorm, more of a creative exercise, and that's around regenerative and distributive ambitions, as opposed to divisive and degenerative practices. And this is the opportunity you have to co-create with stakeholders and, you know, think about transformative ideas that you can have to align your business to regenerative and distributive actions. Finally, we get into know your business design. So this is like thinking about like very, you know, being true here and analyze how your current business model is blocking or how it can enable the transformation that you have been trying to bring to life and you want to bring about. And finally, you get into redesigning your business. So this is where we think about identifying what we call in systems change, the acupuncture points, or those are the points of entry that can enable the change. So the objective that we have with this workshop is really to provide a framework for you, like entrepreneur or, you know, like a team leader, to identify the key areas for improvement and the potential solutions that are pertinent to the reality of your organization. The main takeaway, so we are facilitating, so the main takeaway is really a high-level plan of action to get you started, is like a strategy. And obviously the workshop is a first step. And as a collective, we are prepared to support the continuation of this journey through design and also implementation expertise. So now we're gonna do like our activity. So we'll give you a little teaser of the workshop and let you work mapping your donut. So Marie will show you an example of a donut mapping, so it can give you an idea like from a consumer goods company. And so hopefully that can help you draw some inspiration and understand how it works.
Yes, so let's say you're a consumer goods company. So some examples of positive or negative impacts are, for instance, if you are using packaging to deliver your goods. So I've got a really good example here in the UK of this company called Riverfords Organics. They deliver veg boxes to your door, and so what they do is the veg boxes are actually reused every single week. So you give back the one that you had from the previous week, and then all of the packaging is either biodegradable, also reused, like punnets and this kind of, and also bags and so on. So that's really a good way to have more positive impact in their operations. Another example, if you're also selling food, that you may be using fertilizers during your for crop production. So these have several impacts. So obviously chemical pollution on soil and water. Fertilizer use also is one of the dimensions of the donuts, and also climate change, because as you may not know, nitrogen and nitrous oxide are also strong warming greenhouse gases. That could be one of the negative impacts of your business. And then another example is you may also have some suppliers on your supply chain further down the line, which do not pay their people fairly. So you could have some low wages in your supply chain. So these are just a few examples that you may be able to map using the donut. And there's always some positive and some negatives to work around. So I'm going to leave you with Flo to actually do this kind of mapping in the next activity.
Perfect. Okay, so I just shared with you a link on the chat, and that's a link to FigJam. So FigJam is a whiteboard tool that is very similar to Miro. Are you guys all familiar? If you're not, just let us know if you have any questions and we can help you set up, but you should be able to access it. And what you'll find there is we separate it like by groups, but we'll separate you in breakout rooms. Probably gonna have like probably no, we will have like 2 groups. Yes, we can help you, Sarah. So yeah, basically like what you have there is this donut. And we provided like the post-its. So what we're going to use is positive for the positive impact you have, you're going to use the green post-its, and everything that you feel like it's negative, you put the red post-its, and you're gonna try to put together like in which area it's affecting. You also have this circle that is, I don't think we have talked about in here, but it's like the circle is to identify where there are like social or ecological pressures that can create a risk or have a very strong impact on your business. And the way we can do like, so you can have a little chat is, you maybe choose a business you work for or your business, or maybe you can choose another company that you like to use for this exercise. But the idea that you work together is to bring a little bit of this collaboration and a bit of a conversation. So we'll give you 10 minutes for that. I think that's fine. We put you on the breakout rooms, and then we'll come back again and we'll share 1-2 key insights of each one, just to share a little bit before the Q&A.
Just conscious of time, I'm just bringing everybody back in the main room for a quick debrief, if that's okay with you, on key findings.
Yeah, so shall we bring the
Can I just say very quickly, Natasha wrote a question in the chat, so if we don't have time now, Natasha, I can say something at the end, or I can write something, send it an email. It's a great question, and somewhere where I haven't responded to it.
Yeah, I would like that, because I've been thinking about it for quite some time now.
Okay, well, let's see where we get to.
Mindset.
I'm happy to hang around after the call and we talk about it.
Yes, thank you.
Right, so yeah, this was quick exercise, and obviously like you can see that how important it is to have different stakeholders on the table, so everyone has a different point of view and like an experience around the business. In our specific room, we had like thinking about really the people you were working with and who's part of your value chain. So, it will be nice to hear a little bit from you. So can you someone from each team just speak about 1 or 2 key findings that you had during this quick exercise? And maybe we start with your team, Mahi.
Yeah, so I'm not going to speak. I'll let the participants speak. Maybe Sarah or Robert, you want to say a few words just super quickly.
One simple finding is that we chose McDonald's just because we thought everyone knows about it. Many red post-its and very few green post-its, but there were a few green post-its anyway. So yeah, it's not only bad.
Yeah, there are some positives even in McDonald's to be found.
Like providing jobs and cheap food. I mean, good for people who don't have much money, for example.
Yeah. But there's millions of negative impacts that we started mapping, basically. And we also, Tim was also talking about the story about this identity questions that lie behind this type of business and the transformation. No matter how much you try to be more sustainable, they're still making things that are fundamentally not really having a net positive impact. But that's another story. But over to your group, maybe, Flo.
Very interesting. Okay, so we know that Aisha is at work. So Natasha, would you like just to share? I think it was interesting because you're coming from a different point of view, right? And you both had a similar kind of business.
Yeah. We were like, both of us were working at a consultancy, and then we kind of started off with the question, what's our value chain then, and do we also collect all the impacts that our customers have? For example, like, we're working a lot with real estate companies, and then their positive and negative impacts, do we also collect them as, like, for our analysis? So yeah, we actually, we talked about that a bit, and Yeah, it was really interesting for me because working at a sustainability consultancy, we often talk with companies about their positive, negative impacts, but also risk and opportunities connected to sustainability issues. But then thinking about the company that I'm working at, I actually found that it's quite difficult to have it all in mind and decide where you start and where you end with that evaluation. Yeah.
So that could be a good exercise for you guys, right? to do as a team.
Just very briefly, a story. I've worked with people who are doing a lot of work in advertising around these issues. And what they say is, advertising has a tremendous impact on driving, consumer behaviors and extractive behaviors, but doesn't obviously look like it has its own footprint because it's a kind of knowledge industry. They've coined this phrase ecological brain print. So for certain organizations, media organization, advertising, knowledge-based, they're saying the biggest impact you have is how you affect other people's thinking. It's not necessarily the same for sustainability consultancy, but this idea of how do you track your impact if you don't look like you have obvious material ones is also a really interesting conversation.
Yeah, it's a very good point. Yeah. I had heard about the shadow, but the brain print is a good one. Okay, so I think we need to wrap up this activity and move on towards the close. There was a question that we can take, maybe?
Yes.
Tim?
Okay. Natasha was asking, how do you invite people to have a question about that third level of identity? It's a great question. I'll say something in a minute. It won't be enough, so you can follow up. Okay. Generally, the deeper you go with learning, so you go from skills to, maybe assumptions, purpose, belief to who the hell are we, the more powerful it is as a lever for change, but the harder it is to get to, and the less predictable it is. So you can't have a training course on now we're all going to question identity, whereas you can have a training course on here's a new skill. So in my experience supporting a lot of leaders around this, it begins somewhere around having a kind of dialogue, either individual or a group, which is, where is your current approach no longer working? So I've worked with a lot of sustainability managers and activists who come because they look, we're doing this stuff, but it doesn't feel it's like quite working, or I feel I've got a limitation, or what's next. And then I think the invitation is to really reflect on these gaps, which was that second level. And then in my experience, this is a simplification. Often people have a whole load of stuff that they would dream of saying or doing that they're not doing because of fear or fear of. So then it's like, well, who would be the person that would do that other stuff? Right? Who is the person that's operating in this space as a very sensible sustainability manager? And who is the person that might be bolder or braver or whatever? And from there, rather than just talking about habits or doing, there's a whole transpersonal dimension here. Again, I can say more. Who are these people? So an example is I supported a sustainability manager in New Zealand to go from I'm a conscientious manager to, I'm an elder of the land. And when I stand as an elder of the land and speak there, that's an identity shift. I'm totally different. It's not about a technology. It's not about what I do. You could see she stood different. She spoke different. And then the way she was impacting senior management suddenly was completely different. So that's a story. But she found it as an identity rather than a skill or technique through exploring what's not working in the way I'm going about and who am I being when it's not quite working. I hope that helps a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think where I'm struggling or just thinking about a lot is because I also believe that we need that shift in mindset. But then, like, I don't want to kind of put myself system belief on other people. You know,
So
like yeah,
sorry,
like
carry on.
I don't want to I don't want to give the impression that, oh, I know how it should be and you don't.
Okay.
And I'm teaching you how to, you know, like how you should think about the world and your place in the world. I think like I'm stuck there a little bit.
Yeah. So
You know,
I would love to play more, and we can go offline. I'm aware of time. So what I would offer you, just as a little question,
yeah.
when you say I don't want to be someone who imposes my view and tells people what to do, if I invite you to think there's a little part of you that's exactly what you would like to do. There's a little one in there who loves telling people what to do and imposing their belief. You know, I'm playing.
Yeah.
And if we gave that one some space and we weren't against them and we found out about them, that's the beginning of an identity shift. And I reckon that one, I mean, that one might be a pain in the arse and might be oppressive, but I reckon they have a lot of power, is my guess. So this is the beginning of the conversation we're talking about. I don't know if that makes any sense, and we're not diving into coaching right now. It's not appropriate.
Yeah.
But in your laugh and your smile, it makes me curious, right?
Yeah.
This is
Me
for
too.
this leads to potential other conversation. So just to conscious of time, we're going to wrap this up, and I'm going to hand over back to Flo for the last message.
Yes. Okay. So we wanted to extend you a special invitation. We're actually looking for 1 or 2 businesses that could, you know, want to participate and join our Pioneer pilot program. And what it is like it's a pro bono, and that's you know, this half-day workshop using the methodology that I presented before with the 4 phases. And it's a workshop to support your team, your company, you know, to identify and redesign key areas of your business. So this is like first come, first serve. So if you are interested, here's my email. You can get in touch, or you can even respond to, you know, to the invite that you have, and we can go from there, because I think would be very interesting. Is the beginning of the journey, and then we can, you know, you can see how you continue. So you're invited to that. And yeah, and
just as a final word, we're going to close. So as business leaders and consultants, you have a lot of agency. We talked about this brain print as well. And with great power comes great responsibility. So really invite you, if you believe in moving forward and beyond sustainability, to continue collaborating with us to become the regeneration. So let's stay in touch. You have our contact details, and we hope to see you soon. So thank you for your attention today. Bye-bye.
Guys, thank you so much.